fog rolls in thick every night, along Route 47, just past the state line where the asphalt cracks and the yellow lines fade into nothing. That's where Ashford sits, a town of 342 souls, though no one's bothered to update that number in years. Maybe they don't want to. Maybe they already know the count's gone down. The locals don't talk much to outsiders. They don't talk much to each other either. But their eyes, they tell a different story. They dart away when you ask the wrong questions. They linger too long on empty chairs at the diner. They carry the weight of something unspeakable, something that's been festering in the soil beneath their feet for longer than anyone wants to remember. It started with Sarah Hendricks, 23 years old, art teacher at the county elementary school, moved to Ashford 6 months ago, looking for quiet, for peace, for something resembling a fresh start. She found something else entirely. October 14, 2021. Sarah left the Ashford General Store at 7:32 in the evening. Security footage shows her walking to her car, a blue Honda Civic parked under the one working street light in town. She's carrying a paper bag, smiling at something on her phone. The next frame shows the parking lot empty. Her car still there, keys on the driver's seat, phone on the ground, screen shattered. Sarah Hendricks was gone, vanished into the thick October air like she'd never existed at all. The sheriff, a man named Dale Pritchard, who'd held the position for 27 years, called it a runaway situation, said Sarah probably got spooked by small-town life, hitched a ride with someone passing through. But Sarah's mother knew better. Mothers always do. She drove 11 hours from Pittsburgh, knocked on every door in Ashford, showed Sarah's picture to every face that would look. Most wouldn't. Most just shook their heads and closed their doors a little faster than politeness required. But one woman, elderly, her name was Margaret Voss. She looked at that photograph for a long time, too long. Her hands started shaking. "You should leave," Margaret whispered, her voice barely audible over the wind. "Take your daughter's memory and leave this place. Some doors shouldn't be open." She closed hers before Sarah's mother could ask what that meant. But Sarah wasn't the first. That's what the records showed, if you knew where to look, if you were willing to dig through the town hall archives, past the dusty boxes and water-damaged files that smelled like decay and deliberate neglect. 1998. Kevin Torres, 17, football star, disappeared walking home from practice. 2004. Lisa Chen, 31, photographer documenting rural America, last seen at the motel on the edge of town, 2012. Michael Preston, 45, wildlife biologist studying migration patterns in the nearby forest. All gone, all without a trace, all written off as people who simply left, who moved on, who wanted to disappear. But their cars remained, their belongings untouched, their lives interrupted mid-sentence, like a record skipping on the same broken note. The pattern was there if you looked close enough. Every 6 to 8 years, always in October, always someone new to town, someone without deep roots, someone the community could erase without too much trouble. The FBI reviewed the cases once, back in 2013. Agent Rebecca Morrison spent 3 weeks in Ashford, interviewing residents, searching the surrounding woods, following leads that went nowhere. Her report concluded there was insufficient evidence of foul play. Insufficient evidence, that's what it said. But Agent Morrison requested a transfer immediately after, moved to the Miami field office, refused to ever discuss the case again. Her partner, Agent Luis Cordova, wasn't so lucky. He stayed behind for 2 more days, trying to find something, anything the investigation had missed. He was found in his motel room, alive but changed. His hair had gone completely white. He couldn't speak for 6 days. When he finally could, he requested medical leave and never returned to active duty. The official report blamed a psychological episode, stress-induced breakdown. But the motel owner, a man named Frank Deering, he saw Cordova that last night, saw him running from the tree line behind the motel, running like something was chasing him, running like he'd seen the end of the world itself. The woods surrounding Ashford stretched for miles, dense and dark and older than the town itself. The locals call it the silence, not because it's quiet, but because sound behaves differently there. Voices don't echo, right? Footsteps seem to come from everywhere and nowhere. Hunters who've gone in tell stories of feeling watched, of seeing shadows move between trees too quickly, of hearing whispers in a language that sounds almost like English but isn't quite right. Most hunters don't go deep anymore. They stick to the outer edges, take their deer and leave before sunset, because sunset in the silence is when things change, when the temperature drops 20 degrees in minutes, when the birds stop singing all at once, when you realize you've been walking in circles, even though you swore you were going straight. There's a place in those woods, about 4 miles northwest of town, where the trees grow different, twisted. Their bark is black, not the healthy dark brown of aged oak or pine, but black like charred bone. Nothing grows beneath them, no undergrowth, no moss, no fungi, just bare earth, hard-packed and wrong. The locals call it the gathering place, though no one will explain why county records show it was supposed to be developed back in 1957, turned into a camping area, but construction stopped after 3 weeks. The work crew abandoned their equipment overnight, left everything behind. The foreman's journal was found in his truck. The last entry, dated September 19, 1957. We found something. God help us, we found something. They want us to cover it up. They say it's always been here. They say it has to stay. The next page was torn out. The foreman, Charles Whitmore, moved his family to California 2 days later, sold his house for half its value, never came back. He died in 1973, heart attack. But his daughter still lives in Sacramento, and she still won't say what her father told her about those 3 weeks in Ashford. Sarah Hendricks' mother never stopped looking. She hired a private investigator, a former Boston PD detective named Marcus Webb, who specialized in cold cases. Webb arrived in Ashford in November 2021, checked into the same motel where Agent Cordova stayed 8 years prior. He worked the case for 2 months, interviewing anyone who would talk, which wasn't many. He explored the woods, photographed the gathering place, sent samples of the soil to a lab for analysis. The results came back strange. The soil contained trace amounts of organic compounds that shouldn't exist naturally, chemical signatures the lab couldn't identify. More disturbing were the bone fragments. Human, multiple individuals, dating back at least 70 years, possibly longer. Webb took this information to Sheriff Pritchard. The sheriff looked at the report for a long time, then locked it in his desk drawer. Sometimes, Pritchard said, his voice heavy with something that might have been regret, the cost of truth is higher than people are willing to pay. You should go home, Mr. Webb. Send Mrs. Hendricks my condolences and tell her to stop looking, for her own sake. Webb didn't listen. 3 days later, December 18th, he went into the woods alone. He left a note at the motel. I found where they're taking them. I'm going to get proof. His camera equipment, his phone, his wallet, they're all still in his room. Marcus Webb never came back. The investigation into his disappearance lasted exactly 48 hours before being classified as a missing person case involving a probable accidental death in the wilderness. No search parties were organized, no volunteers gathered. The town just went quiet, quieter than usual, like everyone was holding their breath, waiting for something to pass. But here's what nobody talks about. Here's the thing that doesn't make it into any official report. Every October, for one night, the people of Ashford gather, not all of them, but enough. They meet at the old church at the south end of town, the one that hasn't held a proper service in decades. They go inside and they don't come out until dawn. Outsiders aren't welcome. Doors are locked, windows are covered. But if you stand outside, if you're quiet enough, if you're foolish enough, you can hear them, not praying, not singing, chanting, low and rhythmic and old, so old it sounds like it predates language itself. And beneath that, something else, something that might be voices, or might be screaming, or might be both. Something that makes your skin crawl and your instincts scream to run. The town's founding date is listed as 1873, but there are structures in those woods buried beneath the soil and covered by centuries of growth that suggest people were here long before people who knew something, people who made a choice, people who started a tradition that never ended. The disappearances aren't random. They're not the work of a serial killer or a cult gone wrong. They're something worse. They're intentional, they're necessary. At least that's what the people of Ashford believe. That's what they've been taught, generation after generation, in whispers and warnings and unspoken rules. The town survives because of what happens in October. The crops grow, the children are born healthy, the winters are mild. Small miracles that require a terrible price Sarah Hendricks is still missing.